I was a short while back in a foreign country, and you can imagine being approached by a fellow man asking me to go out and mess with him, sleep with him. And the guy has the audacity to tell me I look nicely round. Can you imagine? What a level of perversion. There is no right, if you look at the Constitution of Kenya and the laws we have in this country, to be gay, to be a lesbian, to be transgender, or to be queer, which is what the Q stands for in LGBTQ. To the contrary, we should read the provisions of Article 45 of the Constitution. First, it places the family at the very heart of the society. In fact, what it says is that the family is the fundamental unit of the society. At sub-article 2 of Article 45, it says only people of opposite gender can marry one another. And that is the law of Kenya. I'm aware this thing is in all government offices. This thing is even in parliament. This thing is even in the media. This thing is percolating all over. But I want to tell the people imagining we can withdraw, because I've been receiving threats telling me, Kaluma, withdraw from that enterprise. Tell them to study my history with matters concerning the family. Yeah. We brought down the slave queens the other day. Kaluma brought the Marriage Act, which has consolidated all marriage laws. Up to the time we brought the Matrimonial Property Act, Kenya was relying on 1882 laws of England on matrimonial property. On family, there is no backpedaling. And don't call me to say I'll not go to your country. What do we lack in Kenya? You can cancel your visa. I was a short while back in a foreign country, and you can imagine being approached by a fellow man asking me to go out and mess with him, sleep with him. And the guy has the audacity to tell me I look nicely round. Can you imagine? What a level of perversion. So I'm telling our people that this is an enterprise which is going on. There is no reverse gear, and it is going to succeed. On the day this bill is going to be tabled, it is going to be Kenya versus Sodom and Gomorrah, the other side. Yeah. Anybody who will rise to oppose will belong, and Kenyans will see them to Sodom and Gomorrah immediately. And as Kenyans will fight very hard, and I know we are more than the people of Sodom and Gomorrah sent in this parliament, I know we will succeed. So I appreciate what is happening. The bill has been drafted. We are now waiting for parliament to move forward. But as we do that, we want to encourage our institutions to know that they exist for Kenya, not for foreign powers. Do you find it any coincidental that determination by a majority of the bench members in the Supreme Court was handed down when the First Lady of the United States of America was arriving in Kenya? It's not a coincidence. Is it coincidental that then you see her giving us some 16 billion for hunger? This hunger of ours, which makes people think our moralities can be bought. Why don't we have measures to end it? And remember, imagine even if you are a child, the Supreme Court rightly says these things are criminal acts in Kenya. They're not just sins. But then the Supreme Court goes ahead and says that the association of these criminals still has to be registered. What are you talking about? What a contradiction. It's like telling murder convicts, you can register murderers association. What will stop terrorists from approaching the NGO's board to say we also want to be registered? It will stop rapists from saying we can now be registered. We are going back to that Supreme Court, and I'm encouraged by the position taken by the churches. Because people think you cannot appeal to the Supreme Court, but you can go back for a relook, review. And I take courage in the fact that Only 3 judges of the Supreme Court decided so.
Yeah.
2 dissented and 2 were not there. We are going back to that Supreme Court with the religious organizations, the churches and everybody, and we are going to request the Supreme Court in their full bench of 7 in number to review that position. And if they don't, then I want to remind the Supreme Court and our court system to begin reading where they derive their power from.
Yeah.
The people.
They are exercising the delegated power
From the people.
of the people of Kenya, not some perverts or their external funders.
Or
We may not even end at disbanding that Supreme Court, but we can have a law, because the Constitution also says nobody, no authority, including the Supreme Court, has the power to make any provision with the force of law other than this Parliament.
Yes.
So if we don't succeed in that Supreme Court, there will be a provision in the bill we are going to propose that will deregister, if they would have been registered, any organization encouraging or promoting this vice. That is our position. We want the education sector to work around it. We want the law enforcement to do their work, and we want everybody to be on the alert, more so for their children, for truly these are the future of our society. But this is a battle we must succeed on, and it's a battle that anybody pushing it down our throats will never win. If it is what will make Kenya poor, I don't think Uganda is any poorer,
Then, yes, yeah.
having passed it.
Yes.
I've read the Constitution. People are saying, what right? What we are saying is that we will arrest you if you engage in these criminal acts in Kenya.
Correct.
And when we take you to court, we will give you your right to fair hearing.
Yeah, that's the right.
So get your lawyer. We will give you your right to fair hearing. That is the right you have under the Constitution. If you mess up with your bodies, you hurt yourselves in those unnatural behavior, we will treat you subject to your paying for it. We cannot treat you for free because you have a right to Medicare. But we need to protect our system so that the society really is sanctioned. I'm very happy with my church, the Catholic Church. And I'm very happy with the other religious organizations, including the Muslims, the Hindus. And I'm happy that the church is, voicing their moral position and their position as an institution in this church. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, our laws are quite clear. Our penal code still has outlawed issues to do with homosexuality. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it was absurd that a good number in the Supreme Court did find it fit to allow a habit or something that is already outlawed under our laws, that you could now allow people to associate. What happens tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, if all the pickpockets in our streets decide now that they have rights as pickpockets and they want to form the Association of Nairobi Street Pocket Thieves, or even robbers, bank robbers? Tomorrow, robbers may decide that we have certain rights under the Constitution, the right to association. But, Honorable Speaker, the Constitution also says that your rights are limited.
The West has never been a moral authority. These are the people who came and enslaved us. And they came and colonized us. And they came and treated us like animals. And now they want to tell us to behave like animals. The next thing that's going to come up...
Honorable Farah Malim, which animals engage in homosexuality?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I withdraw that bit. I withdraw that bit in the interest and the respect for the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom never engages in that. But the next thing they're going to tell us is that somebody has a right, a man has a right to marry a woman. They want to tell us that a woman has a right, to marry another man, or a woman has a right to marry a woman. What do two women who are married do? What is there? God has created a man and a woman. It's there in all the Abrahamic scriptures. It's in Islam. It's in Christianity. It's in Judaism. If we allow them to take over our lives, we have allowed them for far too long for them to exploit us and to dehumanize us as human beings. On this, we will say no. If they're going to come up with the travel, what do you call restrictions, keep your country, keep your cultures, keep your nonsense to yourselves. And I'm talking to the West in this case here.
It is quite clear from our books that some of these things in LGBTQ are actually outlawed. And therefore, anything associated with those characters cannot be allowed to stand against the morals of the people of Kenya. Whether it's sodomy, whether it's lesbianism, whether it's queerness, whether it is anything that is outward practiced by these characters who say they have human rights. They may have their rights in private, and I'm sorry, I shiver and shudder when I imagine what they do in private, because it is totally repugnant, especially to us Africans. It's also important to condemn those who come with these ideas. And this is why today we celebrate the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. We celebrate the late Robert Mugabe of Uganda. And sometimes it actually appears Idi Amin himself was a saint, because these are the things he was condemning those days, in spite of being incited by these same Europeans and Americans to kill a few Ugandans. Therefore, we as Africans must stand up. We must stand to be counted. We must tell these Europeans and Americans that for the little money they are enticing us with, I'm told they're even offering relief food to Kenyans so that you can legalize things like this one. They have been approaching our organizations, including the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, offering tokens so that they can promote rights of such characters. Thank heavens, these commissions and these organizations have said no to their little tokens. Let them keep their bad habits in Europe, in America. Let us as Africans keep what we consider to be morally upright and suitable for our society.
Speaker, I am a watcher and I'm a fan of National Geographic, which has documentaries. You see male animals being attracted to females, fighting to death. I have never seen a male animal raising to satisfy itself sexually on another male animal. So what are they telling us, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this country, and I want to hear the leadership of this country speak against this. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I think the president of this country should write immediately to the Attorney General to appeal this ruling. It cannot be bearable. Yes, Kenya is a Christian nation. It has Muslims. It has all denominations. But Mr. Speaker, our constitution is supreme. 11 explicitly said it. The Ashpal guy spoke about it, his commission, the bombers 1 and 2, they were against this. How can we then, 2023, admit the gays and lesbians of this world to rule this country? Mr. Speaker, on this seat where I sit from, I am telling people who I represent from Mavoko, if you see gays and lesbians, tell them to be wary of me, because I'm going to tell you what you are going to do with them. So are Kenyans. We cannot allow that, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn this ruling by all means, even if it means us calling those judges to apologize to Kenyans and say they judged and they ruled when they were not sober, Mr. Speaker. Then is when we are going to agree with their ruling. However, Mr. Speaker, this House has a role to legislate and make laws that befit this country. Let's not forget our mandate. Let us stand by the virtues and
look at the ruling by the Supreme Court, whichever way it was, has gone against the Constitution, Article 11. And therefore, it means that judgment which was made by the Supreme Court is null and void because it is against the Constitution. And there is nothing else we can say about it. We will still consider in this House that that law never existed. That judgment was never made. We just consider it as if there was nothing done. As if the Supreme Court judge, as if there was 6, if there was 7, they sat in vain. Whatever the decision they made in that particular judgment, it was done in vain. Because Article 11 is very clear. No same-sex marriage is allowed in this country. No same-sex relationship is allowed in this country. No same-sex penetration is allowed in this country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, when these particular courts declare or presume to be making a declaration that they are making a judgment, they are giving a ruling that we allow these people to have a relationship, we allow these people to look at one another, we allow these people to have some association. Mr. Speaker, that is going contrary to the Constitution. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say, just like what my senior said, do we need to tell these judges to revoke? Do we